Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and for the very first time we are going to the state of Wyoming. I've never ever tried a beer from this state actually, and I'm very curious to see how this one turns out, because this is a brewery that seems to have had some real plaudits for the quality of their beer. So we're going to go to Alpine in Wyoming, which is kind of just on the border with Idaho actually, and we're having a taste of my first beer from Melvin Brewing Company. So this one is the 2x4, which is a double IPA coming in at 9.9% ABV. So it is a bit of a monster even within the double IPA category actually. I think that's bordering on a triple IPA, to be quite honest with you. But very curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. The 2x4 of course in America I believe is a kind of standard measurement of wood, and they use it a lot in construction and building things and stuff like that. Of course in Europe we use a lot of the, mainly centimetres. The Americans still like to use feet and inches and stuff like this. But yeah, it should be a really interesting beer, this one. And as I've said, this is a brewery that seems to have had some real plaudits for the quality of their beer over the last little while, and they seem to be constantly expanding as well. But yeah, looking forward to this one, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Melvin Brewing Company. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Melvin Brewing. And so as I mentioned to you earlier, Melvin Brewing are based in Alpine in Wyoming, which is very close to the Idaho border actually, and when you see pictures of this little town it looks pretty nice. But the company was founded back in 2009 by Jeremy Tofte, and the brewery kind of originally began on a very small 20-gallon system, which was later expanded to a 3-barrel brewing system in the Tie Me Up restaurant in Jackson Hole in Wyoming. But Jeremy Tofte had actually moved there at the young age of 25, and apparently he loved to surf, he loved to mountain bike and also snowboard as well. The company today actually sponsor a number of professional snowboarders, but he'd also worked for a beer distributor as well when he was younger, and this, he was really quite influenced by this experience. He really loved the Belgian beers, particularly Chimay, he said, and this helped him, working for this beer distributor, really helped him kind of get a taste for all these different beer styles. And he started home brewing, as we said, in the restaurant. He of course owned the Tie Me Up restaurant with one of his friends, and today this restaurant, I think they remodelled it back in 2013, and it's got 20 craft beers on tap. But in 2015 the company opened a larger production facility in Alpine in Wyoming, which is where the main headquarters of the company is, and they opened up another brew pub in Bellington in Washington State, and also another one in San Diego down in California as well. And they're reportedly looking to be opening up a larger brewery in Colorado. But basically this is one of the more interesting stories, I guess you could say, with craft breweries. I've not, other than some of the breweries in Japan, I've not heard more unusual stories than that. Having a Thai restaurant brewing a little bit of beer and then just selling it to the customers. It's not unheard of, I guess, but this is the first brewery I've heard that's associated with a Thai restaurant, which is pretty cool. The strangest one I've come across so far was one of the breweries in Russia that I reviewed, where the guy who started the brewery used to do railway carriages. He used to build railway carriages, and there was the other one in Japan that it was part of a furniture store, and in one of their furniture stores they started brewing beer. So yeah, this is definitely one of the more kind of unusual craft beer stories that I've come across, but a very interesting brewery, as I said. There has been a couple of controversies surrounding this. I don't want to go too much into that, because there's it's the whole thing, the sort of scandal that surrounded this brewery a little bit is something that's controversial. I'd rather just focus on the beer, to be honest. But yeah, there was that kind of surrounding this brewery. but in terms of the beer, they seem to be really quite well regarded, so that's what we want to focus on for the moment. But yeah, as I say, my first encounter of this brewery, I actually picked up this beer in Japan when I was over there. I saw these ones, and you know, it was from Wyoming, a state I'd never reviewed anything from, so I picked this can up. I think it cost me around 700-800 yen, which is, you know, pretty decent over there for an American beer. But yeah, especially one of the other things in Japan is you can pay 700 yen for this beer at 10%, and you'll pay the same price for a regular IPA, if you like, over there in Japan. It's kind of strange. They seem to tax their own beers more in terms of the malt content and the alcohol content, but when it comes to the American beers, they just, you know, it's a straight up price. This is the cost of the can. So I've never understood the Japanese logic in terms of beer prices and things like that. But yeah, as I say, a very well regarded American craft brewery. If you want to learn any more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and all of this sort of thing. But there you can see the artwork of this one. You can see the guy pretty much, you know, cutting himself up. As I mentioned, this one is a 9.9% double IPA. The hops in this are Columbus, Centennial, Citra and Simcoe, so, you know, a fairly, and I guess in some ways this one might be a kind of old school IPA. I'm guessing this one probably will be more of a West Coast IPA rather than the New England ones, because it is, I think this was one of the first beers that they did, as I say, founded back in 2009, and I would guess this beer was introduced somewhere around 2009, 2010, something like that. But yeah, let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. It says on the side here, Dear Enjoyer, 2x4 has a stupid amount of hops layered on a light malt base that gives way to notes of pine, citrus and tropical fruit. While there are many great beer styles from the past, think of this as a beer from the future. Don't hate, party, 2x4. So yeah, nice looking beer this, and let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. I should point out, I believe this can, it actually looks like a 330, but I think it might be, you know, in America I believe these cans are 355. The Americans of course have their own units when it comes to measuring liquid and stuff like that. They, you know, in Europe it's always been the 330s or the 500s, and more recently I guess the 440s, these tall boy cans. A lot of the breweries over here have been copying the American breweries and doing something similar to an American pint. But yeah, when you open this beer up, straight away you get the Citra and the Simcoe jumping out at you. There's mangoes, there's passion fruit in there. But just look at this beer. This is absolutely lovely. I actually thought this was going to be a nice kind of oily beer, but it's turned out it actually looks kind of like it's almost hazy like some of the New England ones. If I put my fingers behind the glass here, you can see there is a degree of transparency to this one, but it does look fairly hazy actually, but obviously nowhere near the kind of juice levels and stuff like that you'll get from some of these West Coast IPAs. But yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. There's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say, I'd say it's a cream coloured head on this one actually, but in terms of its appearance, you know, there's nothing overly surprising about this in terms of it being an IPA. You know, the colour of this one's right, the smell of it's right, it just looks absolutely lovely, and it's a little bit hazy. As I said, I would have expected this one, considering it's one of their older beers, I would have thought this looks a little bit more like a West Coast IPA, but this one to me looks a little bit more like the kind of New England ones a little bit. But yeah, really nice looking beer, nothing overly surprising about it. Apologies for the edit there guys, camera was being a little bit funny, but let's have a look at the aroma of this beer then and see how we get on. So yeah, when you take this one in, as I was saying when we opened the beer up, you've got a lot of nice tropical fruit coming out of this one. So definitely a bit of mango in there. The passion fruit's coming out quite nicely as well. The passion fruit, of course, is the sign of the Simcoe, you know, in I guess you could say more modern beers. A lot of people are using Galaxy now because it's passion fruit. It's got that passion fruit in there, but it's also got a little bit of the, you know, the kind of pineapple and tropical fruit complexity to it. But the Simcoe is the old school, straight up passion fruit for me, and you can really kind of smell that in this one, forming the linchpin of the fruity side of the beer. On top of that, you've got the Citra, which is just that little bit more complex. You know, there's a little bit of mango in there. The further into the aroma you go, if you take it in a little bit more deeply, you can get a little bit of the lychee and sort of lemon limey notes that you can expect to that hop. But underneath that, of course, you can get a little bit, there's a little touch I think of a kind of lemony note to this one, which I think is, you know, it's It's definitely got a little bit of that in it. I think there's a little touch of a lemony note to this one. The Columbus, of course, gives you that nice, slightly spicy, floral aromatic note. And I've always found that the Columbus can almost give you a little bit of this kind of licorice-y thing to it. But it's got a very, in terms of the flavour, the Columbus gives you a very, it gives you a very kind of straight up, sort of, slightly spicy character. The Centennial, it can be quite a sort of lemony, lemon sherbety note. But to me, this one, it smells very fresh and very fruity actually. And of course this beer, when it's been imported to Japan, it won't be at its freshest, you know, let's be straight up about this. This beer won't be in, likely won't be in its prime condition. I'm just thinking, it says it was canned on, in September of 2018 actually, so yeah. It's still in pretty good condition, but it's 5 months. You really want these within the first kind of 3 months, to be honest with you. And this one probably is about 4 or 5 months-ish old at the moment. But yeah, it does smell really quite nice and quite fresh. You're definitely getting a little bit of that kind of spicy floral aromatic note out of it. There's a little bit of grassiness in there. Underneath you can smell a nice little bit of a kind of bready note in it. Definitely some sort of sweet brown sugar, you know, a sort of slightly caramelly, biscuity sort of thing. But overall, you know, nothing overly surprising in this one. It smells like a big, juicy double IPA, so I'm very curious to see whether this one comes across, how it comes across in the flavour, but I do suspect we're going to have something that's a little bit more kind of West Coast-ish with this beer. But yeah, let's not leave it any longer. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. This one has everything you would want from a double IPA, but let's have a taste of this beer. So this one is the 2x4, a double IPA coming in at 9.9% from Melvin Brewing Company in Jackson Hole or Alpine in Wyoming, basically, in America. So let's get stuck in. Slanja, Skol, Kampai, since I got this beer in Japan. Cheers. Yeah. Okay, you know, pardon me, I've got the sniffles a little bit. So yeah, with this one for me, it's pretty much everything you'd expect, and on the basis of this beer, I can see why these guys, you know, have been pretty well thought of. This is a bit of a monster. 9.9%, if you produce a beer like that, you have to be a little brave with it, because you have to put a hell of a lot of hops in it and a good bit of malt. You know, you have to get that right balance there to cover up the alcohol content, but at the same time, you've got to have these nice kind of bitter notes to balance it, and they've done a really damn nice job with this, I have to say. So thumbs up to Melvin Brewing Company for the quality of this beer that they've produced. Yeah, this one for me is pretty damn solid, I have to say. It's, to me, in terms of its flavour profile, it really does come across as a little bit more of a West Coast IPA, but there is, I think there is a light little touch of New England to this one, which is kind of interesting. So let's start off with that malt base then. In the middle of your palate you can feel that pale malt base, that just blankets the middle of your palate. The further into the flavour that you go with this one, it does get a little bit more thicker and kind of bready. In the centre of your palate you've got a nice bit of a kind of caramelly sweetness to this. There's a little bit of biscuit in there too, which is really quite nice, I think. The further you go out from the centre of your palate, it does become a little bit more biscuity and grainy, but in terms of its malt base, I think, yeah, pretty much it's a West Coast, more of a West Coast IPA, this one, but there is a little bit of that smoothness that you would expect from the New England beers. But as I say, this is one of their older beers that they've done, which is quite interesting. I wouldn't think they would have changed the recipe for this. They probably would have just produced a new beer that was a kind of hazy IPA and things. But yeah, the malt base of this one I think is very nice, and the thing that's really striking me about this is just how how smooth it is. But yeah, it's all about the hops in this one for me. And the malt base, I always say that if you have a nice malt base with just a little touch of sweetness to it, it can add that extra layer of complexity to the beer. And to me, the malt base complements the hoppy side of this one quite nicely. But let's focus on the hops now then. In the back corners of the palate there's a little tiny touch of earthiness there, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue you start to get that nice spicy floral aromatic note to it, which is the kind of trademark of the Columbus hop that they've got in here. That's really, really nice. You can really feel that almost. Some people describe Columbus as being a little bit almost like curry-ish. Some people describe it as having a little bit of almost a licorice and sort of floral aromatic spice, but to me it just comes across as a big sort of spicy beer. But then round the kind of front curve of the palate, it's that little bit more kind of lighter and grassy, although there is an element of a floral character just you know, remaining in that one. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where that nice oily bubble kind of comes out with those juicy, fruity aromas, fruity flavours, sorry. And that's where this beer really starts to shine. I think that the passion fruit in this one is kind of forming the base of it. The Simcoe is forming the base of this beer, and on top of that you're starting to get some of the lemony notes from the Centennial in here, and further into the aftertaste you're getting the citra notes coming out, the mangoes and the other complexities in there. And this is just a very, very solid double IPA, this one. At 9.9% it does cover its alcohol very well as well, so just be careful if you're drinking this one, because in fairness it is a little bit of a monster, probably bordering actually on a triple IPA. But yeah, the further into the aftertaste you go with this one, as I say, you start off with the passion fruit. On top of that you start to get a little bit of the lemony citrus. There's definitely a touch of mango to this one, and the further into the aftertaste you go, you get a little bit of the you get something more along the lines of there is a little bit of lychee to it, but I think it's more of a slightly limey flavour, a sort of lemon-limey flavour, and that kind of complements the lemony notes you're getting from the Centennial in this one as well. But yeah, it's just a very, very nice beer, this one. And the aftertaste, you've definitely got a little bit of that spicy floral quality just lingering there. Some of the sweetness and smoothness from the malt base is coming out as well, but you've got those nice kind of juicy fruity notes as well. Overall, it's just a lovely, lovely beer, this. You know, it's a monster of a double IPA, but it's one that's very, very well done. I think that's a good way to kind of summarise this beer and give it a fair hearing. But yeah, if you get the chance to try this one, have a go at it for yourself. And as I always say, it's cool to try different beers from different parts of America. You know, there's a huge number of breweries over there, and we don't get a fraction of the stuff over here in Europe. So to come across this one, my first beer from Wyoming, was pretty damn cool actually. And to find it in Japan as well is something that's pretty cool. It shows that the Japanese craft beer market is opening up a little bit too. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this one as being, it's more of a full-bodied beer, this one. The carbonation is very smooth, more of an oily mouthfeel rather than anything else. Nice mixture of smoothness and a little bit of sweetness in the malt base as well. Good bit of hoppy bitterness. I would guess somewhere around, you know, the 70-80 IBU mark. This one does have a little bit of bite to it, and I think that's what the Columbus is in there for, to give it that little bit of spiciness, but also a really nice juicy fruity quality to the beer as well. But overall, very, very solid double IPA. Debatable about whether it's a triple IPA, to be honest with you. You do get a little bit of alcohol warmth in here from this one, but just a very, very solid beer. And if this kind of is any marker, like, if you like, of the quality of beers coming from Wyoming, I really do hope that I can review more of them for you in the future. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really interesting beer, and I was glad I was able to review this one for you. So this one was the 2x4, a double IPA at 9.9% from Melvin Brewing Company out of Alpine, or Jackson Hole, I guess you could say, in Wyoming as well. Lovely, lovely beer, and have a go at this one for yourself if you get the chance. Hopefully I can review a few more beers from these guys in the future, and I know they're starting to look at exporting more widely when they get a bigger brewery. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this one. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Melvin Brewing Company as well, and I do hope that I can return to this brewery at some point in the near future. Check out my social media and make sure you try some of these beers. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys later. This was the 2x4 double IPA at 9.9% from Melvin Brewing Company in Alpine, Wyoming, over in America. Slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, kampai.